everyone, and welcome back to the Royal Watcher podcast. I'm Saad Salman, the founder editor of the Royal Watcher.
And my name's Sam Gillespie. I am the editor of the Beau Monde. I have a background in fine jewellery and royal history.
And today we're joined by two very special repeat guests, Jakob and Kaspar.
Hi there. I'm back again.
Welcome back.
Hello, all three of you. It's so nice to be back. We'll have a great time now.
Yeah.
Definitely. So today we're going to be talking about kind of two very big recent events. One is the Swedish King's Jubilee, which has been, for the past week or so, it's been really such an amazing display of royal events and a series of kind of different ways royal occasions are handled. Because we've been having quite the year and a half with 3 separate jubilees, which is very rare in the royal world.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what was in the air back then.
Yeah.
So I think let's start off with kind of talking about the first event, which was a spectacular concert hosted by the Swedish King and Queen at their private residence. And then there was a dinner held there that evening.
Yes, it was in Drottningholm Castle, just outside Stockholm.
Perfect. So yes, it was so they have a private theater in there, and this is where I think one of the most iconic events in this theater has been the concert held in 1956 during this Stockholm Equestrian Olympics, when we saw Queen Elizabeth II and royals from around Europe sitting in this theater attending a gala event, which was kind of one of 3 foreign royal events Queen Elizabeth II ever attended.
Yes.
And the theater is quite special because it was built in the late 1700s or mid 1700s. And then it was forgotten about until it was rediscovered in the 30s or 30s, I think. And it's in everything's original, except, well, they've added electricity and some safety things. But besides that, everything is the original interiors. And it's been used quite a lot for high representation, but private representation by the royal family.
How do you forget a theatre's there?
Yeah, who knows?
It's the palace. I wonder what's behind this door. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's if I remember it correctly, that's what happened, because somebody working at the palace was stumbling through some old buildings and at the corner of the palace, and then he realized that he was standing on a theater stage.
Odd.
It's quite a habit in Sweden to forget stuff, just like they found these 2 steel-cut tiaras in a room.
That's so true. That's so true.
Oh, suddenly it's there. Perfect. Let's use it.
I think Sweden has had that period between 1965 and 1976 when they didn't have a queen. So many things got lost in that period that they just keep on making new discoveries.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that I'm kind of curious about, Jakob, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure you would know, is the theater open to the public? Can they go visit it at time?
Yeah.
Or is it private? Ooh.
Yes, they have a lot of performances there. I mean, it's not the kind of theater that's open 6 nights a week, and they have 8 performances a week, like a normal theater. But they have quite a lot of performances there, mainly opera and classical theater, and it's actually one of 3 18th century theaters that exist in their original condition. There's one at Gripsholms Castle, but they are not allowed to use that because there is no how do you say? There's no way to make a fire escape there.
Oh, okay.
And the one at Gripsholm, it's more like oval.
Yes, yes, exactly, and it's quite small. It's quite small.
It is.
It was, that theater was made for having the, ladies of the court dancing for the king or something.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a big theater or a bigger theater that was also rediscovered at Ulriksdals Castle near Stockholm. Which Princess Christina has been the patron of for decades. But I think she relinquished that patronage together with all the others a few years ago. So we have and most of these, all of them were built by King Gustaf III, who was, he was literally a theater queen. So no matter how much the ladies danced for him, he didn't really care.
No, he was looking at something else.
Yeah, I think that's one of those like rich cultural legacies you have, and seeing this theater so full of people, it actually reminded me of a picture we got a couple of years ago. Because when other royal families visit, even on like semi-official visits, like we had King Charles and Queen Camilla visit in 2012, and there was a very small performance. There were just like 6 of them sitting in the entirely empty theater for a performance. So I like that they can be used for more official events, but also they kind of pop over there for a show sometimes after dinner.
Yes, and a few of there are some photos from 1956 of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip together with King Gustav Adolf and Queen Louise behind the stage. And of course, Prince Philip is very, very interested in, all the old machines, and there's a wave machine. And
I thought you were going to say ballerinas.
I think they were locked away when he was behind there to keep Queen Elizabeth happy. But yeah,
there's a reason she only went with him on one foreign trip. So
I think so.
He was like, next time I'm going to go alone, so no one locks away the ballerinas. Getting on to the fun stuff. So my kind of prediction for this event was that Queen Sylvia was going to be wearing a pale pink gown with the Swedish topaz parure, just because, it's kind of their moment. And I was half correct in that she was wearing this lovely pale pink gown, but the topazes were not present.
I actually expected them to wear some more massive jewelry. Perhaps not a tiara, but at least some bigger statement jewelry.
Yeah, so did I.
Yes, it did seem kind of more cocktail than because we all 3 of us saw Queen Margrethe's Golden Jubilee last year, and her gala was white tie and tiaras, and so we didn't expect it at the same level, but we did expect something more grander than this. And Queen Sylvia was definitely the most kind of decked up, so she had the most jewels on of any other lady there.
But I think we were spoiled with the colors, with the color scheme. They were quite bright and beautiful, and then we did see Sophia wear a bracelet of the amethyst parure, so that was nice.
Yes, and I think if we move on to the next slide and see all the foreign royals, we're going to see Queen Margrethe. She wore a pearl brooch. Queen Anne-Marie wore this massive sapphire cabochon brooch, which is kind of unknown provenance. And Crown Princess Mary wore the heirloom turquoises from Catherine the Great. So we did have some kind of jewels there, but not the ones we wanted.
And the Danish queen, she was wearing a necklace that she got from her late husband, Prince Henrik, and she turned 40 years. So it's 4 rows of pearls for 4 decades of her living. And it has quite a big amethyst and diamond at the lock. And the earrings were, At the back, yes. And the earrings were the morning gift she got from Prince Henrik, pearls and diamonds.
Ooh.
So I mean, and Queen Anne-Marie's wearing Queen Frederica's earrings as well, which she hasn't really worn for a long time. So she did bring out some hidden jewels, so we'll talk about a bit later.
She also took the pearls.
Yes, but I think with what most kind of surprised me was seeing both Queen Sonja and Queen Margrethe, as well as the Finnish and Icelandic First Ladies, were both in very kind of cocktail length dresses and not gowns like the other ladies.
Yes, because Mary, she came in, the Crown Princess Mary came in this black and white gown. And I was quite surprised about the color, thinking that it was like Indian summer. So, but it's nice, but I would have expected some other things.
Especially with the turquoise, I think. Because we've seen in a couple of different kind of scenarios. She wore once with like modern jewels for a gala. Then she wore it with a ruby parure for the French state visit, when she like made this like weird kind of one shoulder thing with a scarf, which did not work at all. But I think this is the most successful appearance of this gown so far.
But if she has, all of them came in dresses they have worn before. So they also show that it's nice to reuse the stuff.
Oh, definitely. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see all the Swedish royal ladies were in new stuff. So the fact that all the other royals repeated meant that it allowed the Swedish royals to really shine.
Yeah, except Estelle, she came in her mother's dress.
Yes, which was a surprise, because I mean, some royals are really kind of weird about younger, their children wearing full length dresses until they're 18. But I'm glad that kind of Victoria realized that this is a nice occasion, and Estelle would have liked to dress up. So I think it was successful.
Well, I mean, traditionally, Estelle wouldn't have been allowed to, shouldn't have worn a long dress until she was 16. Exactly. And she wouldn't have been, she shouldn't have had her hair up. But I mean, we saw already, was it last year in Norway, when she had a long dress and her hair up? So, well, things are changing.
Definitely.
But I must say that if she wanted to wear her one of her mom's dresses, why this one? I don't think it worked very well on her, but she must have been happy.
I can see she fits it, but it's not this young girl dress. It shows something else.
Yeah, I have.
And by this, we mean that we talk from like the old etiquette and the ideas that used to be like this. We also have to get used to that we're now in 2023, but we're still looking at how it used to be.
Yes, I mean, if you look at it in Japan, the emperor's daughter, until she was 20, she appeared at all public events in her school uniform, no matter if her parents were in.
Yes.
So, I mean, in contrast to that, I like this in that it's not as rigid of a protocol.
Of course. They are losing up. They are adapting to the era.
Yeah, I mean, so let's start with Princess Madeleine and kind of her gown, but more importantly, she was wearing the Bernadotte rose brooch that you were just showing us in her hair, which you not necessarily see in this picture, but it was definitely there.
And was it me, or was it fastened in a strange way? Because I mean, I think she's worn it before. But it looked like it was falling off to me or something.
Like it was sitting too loose?
Yes, I think so.
It was like the positioning wasn't too kind of exact. She just kind of just plonked it on there, because in the back it used to be kind of incorporated into her hairstyle at the back of her hair sometimes. Whereas this one, it was just stuck it into the side and let it go, and it changed position several times during the night. And then we had Princess Sophia, who also wore heirloom jewels with the bracelet and earrings of the Swedish amethyst parure, which kind of, I thought that it was nice that the two of them and Queen Sylvia wore heirloom jewels, but then Crown Princess Victoria wore these faux earrings, which matched her gown, but just didn't really fit the occasion, I feel.
I mean,
I was
she looked-
surprised that she was not wearing any heirloom. So
yes, and
the
one
others
thing
did.
I've noticed about Victoria is that she rarely wears heirlooms when it's not one of the white tie events or one of the if I say real black tie events, or
Mm.
when it's like the opening of Parliament or something. Besides that, she always wears modern jewelry, and I don't know
Yes.
why, because you could. I mean, her mother wears heirlooms all the time.
It must be something with her taste, but I hope when her time comes as a queen, she will unfold and just use everything.
Yeah.
Because they definitely have a lot in the world that she can use, but she just doesn't.
Yes. So why
And I know
not use
our
them?
friend Sarah disagrees with Jacob and I on this, and she says that Victoria shouldn't really have to wear heirlooms all the time just because we want her to.
Mhm.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't have to, but she could mix it up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She could
Especially
mix
because, like we were discussing a few months ago about how Sweden has all these white tie events that don't have tiaras, and
Yes.
the Swedish royal family have enough necklaces and pendants and stuff to wear, but Victoria usually just wears a diamond riviere, and that calls it a day. Or it's usually nothing too special otherwise.
And I know that Sam agrees with me in this one. If you got it, flaunt it.
Oh God,
Um,
yeah. If I had a tiara, I'd be doing the washing up in it.
Why buy a lot of new stuff if you already have so much?
Yes.
Exactly. And that, I think, moves us on to talking about the service held the next morning, where we saw this. I'm not sure if we've kind of seen this before or if it's just me noticing for the first time, but I found it interesting that the foreign royal guests walked first, then it was the minor members of the Swedish royal family, and then the king and queen. Because generally, I would think that they would all arrive separately, or it would be kind of the minor Swedish royals would arrive first, then the foreign heads of state, and then this
Yes.
king and queen. But this kind of order for all the events, it was the same, and I found that quite unique.
Yeah, it was a new protocol, like they have flipped the bucket and say, let's try it in a new way.
Maybe it's like a family thing, you know. The cousins go
Okay,
first,
yeah.
and then the immediate family, and then
Yeah, because they are family, of course. So
And I think so. Two big jewels that we can talk about here. First is Queen Margrethe's daisy brooch, which has Swedish links because the diamonds in that belong to her grandmother, Crown Princess Margrethe, who was the Swedish crown princess. And this is kind of her go-to for special occasions anyway, but I think it's nice that she brought it, and it's part of that whole look.
And she was also wearing some new earrings that matches this brooch that she got for her 80th birthday from a very big group of friends and masters of the hunts. They chipped in, everybody, and had these extremely beautiful daisy earrings made for her.
I did wonder about those when I saw them. I was like, I don't remember them being a matching sort of demi-parure, but yeah, okay, that explains that.
And they have quite a nice size, and they're very well made. They're made by a man in Copenhagen, and the stones were set in Antwerpen by a professional company down there, and it almost didn't make it back in time.
Yes,
Ooh,
I remember you shared us a picture of when they arrived, and it was stunning. Let's continue, Sam.
I was going to say, working in the jewelry industry, I know what that feeling's like, and it's awful.
Yeah.
Just on the phone every 5 minutes to the workshop. Have you done it? Have you done it? Please, can you write it down?
But it's a beautiful set, and we all saw the brooch at the exhibition in Copenhagen last year, and we could also see it from behind. It's extremely beautiful, this daisy brooch.
Yes, it was lovely.
That's real craftsmanship.
Cartier,
Yeah,
isn't it?
and seeing it.
No, it's not Cartier. It's made by a Swedish company, a Swedish jeweler, for Queen Ingrid's wedding. It was a gift from her father. Apparently stones from Margrethe.
Well, there we go.
Yes.
I think it reminds you a bit of, Princess Michael of Kent has these diamond daisies from Princess
Yes,
Louise,
yes.
Duchess of Argyle.
Mm.
And I mean, if the Danish royal family do kind of have a need of tiaras, but I could see Mary wearing kind of the two smaller, the earrings and the brooch in her hair sometime,
Yeah.
creatively
Mhm.
getting a nice kind of look out of that at some
They
point.
could, definitely.
And
They could
I like
actually mix it up with all the rose brooches that are
Yeah.
part of the crown jewels at Rosenborg.
Mm.
Then
Yeah.
they could make the net around it, and then they have the earrings and the brooch as the centers of the tiara and the sides. It could be funny to. We have to play with that.
yes.
Mm.
And hopefully Mary has kind of some creative skill left in her, because as we
Oh,
talk later, she's
she likes to play with this stuff, so let's help her.
yes, give her some ideas. Mary, if you're
Yes.
listening, this is her next project. Unless she sent the ruby pearl back to be reset for like the 5th time. And then at the same time, another interesting jewel on Queen Sylvia, I thought, was the fact that she was wearing the Leutenberg sapphire brooch, which I don't think she's worn by itself for quite a long time. So I found that very kind of a special touch, and also the fact that she's wearing this small diamond necklace, which was new, but then she has a lot of diamond necklaces.
Yes, then she can put all her emerald things in them, or the small stuff.
Probably Middle Eastern gifts, I'd say.
Mm.
But this brooch was also worn in the evening by Victoria, wasn't it?
Yes, and that's very rare for the Swedish royal, so I kind of wonder why that choice, and there must be some story behind it. Because the
There must be.
Leutenberg sapphires are special to be worn maybe once, but to have it been worn twice is a bit interesting and quite rare.
And on the same day and by two different ones, that's extremely rare. We see that.
Yes,
But has Victoria worn pieces? Has Victoria worn any of the sapphires before?
she wore the earrings and the hairpins at the Nobels in 2012 or 11, I believe, when
okay.
she was pregnant with Estelle.
Ah,
Okay.
okay. Oh
I
yes,
thought
she had
that-
she had the blue dress on, the blue
Yes,
sequin
Oh yes,
dress.
of course. I thought
then
they
she
were
had,
strictly for the
the
queen,
earrings
but
were hanging by the ear wires, so that was an interesting point. And people would be like, "Oh, she's heavily pregnant. How dare she wear such heavy jewels?"
okay.
So this was kind of, I liked Sylvia's look, and then kind of just an honorary mention to Madeleine, who's wearing the pale blue version of the yellow gown that the then Duchess of Cambridge wore to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee service.
Mhm.
And I loved it on her, and I really like on Madeleine as well. It's a really nice, attractive kind of shape silhouette that is very appropriate for this sort of event.
I also think that Sylvia's hairpiece was very nice. It was like a pillbox, but it was open, and it was very elegant from the back also.
Mm.
Just like this Jackie O look.
Mm.
And I think if we move on to the next slide and see after the service, the Swedish royals, they went to the changing of the guard, and that was quite a long kind of thing where the king was first downstairs, then the royals appeared on the balcony, and then there was a singing tribute a few minutes
It was
later.
a very long ceremony.
Yeah, and a lot of standing, which I found quite exhausting to watch. I can't even imagine kind of being there and seeing all that.
Mm. And my only comment to that whole long thing was, I hate singing children. I hate children's choirs. I hate children singing, especially prepubescent boys singing. I had to turn the sound off because I was watching at work, and it was like, oh.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I did mute it as well because I was taking screenshots, but then it was like, and especially because I can't understand Swedish, so it was just kind of background noise, and it was not the most.
But what's quite interesting is when you look at this picture with where Sylvia is waving, you can see the necklace. It looks so stiff on the picture we saw before, and here you can see it's actually very soft. It can bend a lot.
Yes, you're right.
And Sylvia's very good at wearing kind of smaller diamond necklaces for day events. So,
Yeah.
and she has a lot of them in her collection.
She
She
does.
does have, yeah.
So I wonder if this was maybe like a special gift for the Jubilee or one of those things.
Of course. Why she also has a jubilee in a way. Well, she wasn't married to him from when he started, but they were like dating in the background. So it's also kind of her jubilee, and I wonder
And I
if
mean,
he
she's about
gave
to
her
be
a gift.
80. She's about to be 80, and Sylvia's about to turn 80 this year. And
Yes,
because
in
they
December.
fall so close to Christmas, she never really has a big birthday. So it's this is kind of her celebration as well. Because any other kind of country, they would have been celebrating her with a big gala and all the royals getting together. But this is very different.
It will also be interesting to see if and how they will celebrate it, because it's the day before Christmas in the Nordic countries.
Yes.
But didn't she? Was it when she turned 75? No, it wasn't.
It was 51 they had. I think the people that they all surprised her.
Yeah, I mean they had a theater performance or something. No, it was that was before Carl Philip and Sophia married, so she must have been her 70th birthday. Because I think
I think that was 2013. Yes.
Yeah, but that was of course a few weeks before Christmas, or it must have been.
Oh, must have been, yes, because it's already a very busy time. Because on the 20th they have the Swedish Academy gathering, which is always their last event, and then her birth is on the 23rd.
Yeah, and in the middle of, is it on the 8th or 9th of December, they have the Nobel Gala. So they have 2 big things already there.
So it's a very busy time of year to be having a 4th gala event.
Yes, and also for all the other royal houses to participate, because it is the day before Christmas and people have their own tradition.
And also, December is a very busy month. The British are having their diplomatic receptions. The Norwegians have their Nobels. The Danish are preparing for New Year's. So kind of all the close people are all going to be busy.
Yes.
And I think if we move on, next I see that initially it was just the Swedish royal family on the balcony, but later on they were joined by a lot of the foreign royal guests, who you can see in the next slide here. So we saw they kept coming and going. And every time Victoria used to pop away, I was like, oh no, there's going to be some headline. And then, as predicted, like a few hours later, I was looking for pictures, and that was all the headlines. Oh, where did Victoria go? Where did Sophia go? Whereas it was like, yeah, I think they had to endure those singing children for so long, they needed a break.
I was actually surprised that the other grandchildren of the king and queen weren't at the balcony, because this would have been Carl Philip and Sophia's children joined them on the Sunday, but this would have been, yes, at the concert, but this would have been the perfect another perfect opportunity or occasion for them to be there for the grandfather's Golden Jubilee. But
I was also surprised that they were not there at like this event or something.
Yes,
like a day event.
Yes, and if you think Madeleine's children weren't in Sweden at all, and all of them are big enough to. I mean, this would have been a fantastic memory for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a family thing.
Whole, kind of the whole smaller royal family.
Yeah, I think so too. They are not officially members of the royal house. So
yeah.
This is the evidence of them being phased out.
Right? Yes.
But I noticed something when they were standing on the balcony, and I didn't watch this like balcony and singing show. I was scrolling through it after I have the same with the singing, as you said. But I noticed that the Danish queen and her son and daughter-in-law, they were chit-chatting a lot, and there was a lot of nice gestures between them when they were on the balcony. Like also when they were standing a little in the background, they were interacting a lot. That was nice to see. And they were, you know, living together on the Danish royal yacht together with Queen Anne-Marie down in front of the castle. It was it a Skibsholmen or something? It was situated. Perhaps you know that, Jakob.
It was at Skeppsbron, which is a street that borders the harbor in the old city of Stockholm. And it's only a few hundred meters down from the royal palace.
Yes.
And another thing that we should mention, well, at least that I think is worth mentioning, is that, you know, Anne-Marie and Harald and Margrethe, they all have Swedish mothers.
Yes.
So they are very closely related, all of them.
But also, this was after the Te Deum in the church, but early in the morning, that nobody knew about it, the closest family, they had a gathering at 9 o'clock in the Haga Park. It's where the royal burial site is, where they like put flowers and remembered the late king that was before the present king, like their grandfather. So that was a very nice touch, and they didn't announce it. So like, I know we were quite why some of the Danish papers said that they will send live, but they didn't do it, and they're not leaving the boat, where are they? So they actually left early in the morning.
Which was, I think, in Denmark, we see for like the Jubilee events that they go very publicly to the graves of King Frederick and Queen Ingrid and put flowers and pay their respects.
Yeah,
whereas
we know
they're
they're going
private.
But it's difficult to have it private in Denmark. It's in the middle of a square in front of the castle, but they try to make it private.
And kind of one last thing before we kind of stop on this topic is that first thing, the Swedish royal ladies were wearing the king's portrait brooch for most of the events, and I found that really lovely. Just not just because I like the orders, but also that it's really the king's event. So the fact that he was on all the shoulders really was a nice touch. And secondly, that all of them got these new Jubilee medals, which I really like. I like the color of them, and
the color is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's like the color of the Swedish, like the blue and the yellow. It's just like pale blue and gold. So it's in the shape of this order, or it's a new shape. It's quite nice.
It's very lovely. Perfect. So I think the highlight of these Jubilee celebrations were the spectacular banquet that King Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia hosted at the Royal Palace of Stockholm, which, I mean, I've never seen it in person, but it seems like such a massive residence because they keep on coming up with like new reception rooms, and the throne hall they use is very rarely used.
It's massive. And I think Pamela Hicks once said in an interview that you could put Buckingham Palace in there and lose it because it's gigantic.
But didn't that just reminds me of something Princess Olga Romanov said, that her father referred to Buckingham Palace as a cottage compared to the palaces in St. Petersburg. So maybe it is. Maybe it's really small.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard similar stories, especially when talking about South Asian rulers and their palaces, is that they always got disappointed when they went to Buckingham Palace because they were like, these are the people supposedly ruling us, but we would not very even think about living in a place as small as Buckingham Palace.
Like, this is the size of stables.
Yeah.
But it is very, very big. I mean, just one wing, the one side is the church, and then this banquet hall. What is it called, Jakob?
Oh, it's Rikssalen, the Hall of State. That's I mean, it was used for ceremonies, the opening of Parliament and whatever.
And it's absolutely massive. And the fact that they don't really use it on a regular basis because they have more ballrooms and big banquet halls where they have normal banquets. It's just.
I was there a few years ago on a tour, and I was actually quite surprised about. There's a lot of beauty, but the official state rooms up there, they also they are ready to get some restoration.
Yes. Yes, there is a man on Instagram. I hope he's still there. But I know he's had his account hacked a few times, so maybe he's gone. But a man called Håkan Groth, who did a he did a very long series of posts about the royal palace in Stockholm, and he was highly critical about how it's well kept, but it's quite.
But you can see all the details. It's not nice. It's like it needs maintenance. But they're also giving the whole castle is getting a full renovation. Is it 1 billion crowns?
They are redoing the facade. And the last time it was done was 150 years ago.
Yeah, it was needed.
They've redone the roof and everything. So I mean, for now,
and they did add that new balcony as well.
Yeah,
which
exactly. So for now, it seems that they are focusing on the exterior.
Yes.
But it's going to be a long and costly process because, I mean, the Brits have been complaining about Buckingham Palace renovations for over 10 years. So, and this is much longer. Yeah. It's going to be difficult kind of to justify this level.
Yes.
So I found for like the setting of it, and we'll talk about the tiaras later on, but the kind of main standout points, first off, is that King Carl Gustaf, King Harald, and the Finnish president, they're wearing the big collars of the Order of the Seraphim, which are like the grandest insignia, and I think that really adds like an extra level of grandness to an event. And at the same time, the 3 Scandinavian queens are also wearing their biggest tiaras. So this was really the top tier event that they can have.
And we should add that the Queen Margrethe, she also has the collar of the Order of the Seraphim, but she decided not to wear it.
Yes. I mean, it could be due to her back surgery, but then she didn't wear that for Victoria's wedding either. So,
but Queen Beatrix did, I think.
Yes, Queen Beatrix did.
Yeah.
Yes, and if we move on to the next slide, I think we can see the highlight of the evening was Queen Sylvia wearing the magnificent Braganza tiara.
I was hoping for it, but I didn't dare to expect it. But
I mean, we did discuss it, and I was kind of debating if I should or should I not kind of voice that out there. And then I'm so glad I did, because she did decide to wear it. And I wasn't initially a big fan of her kind of gold gown, but then it does match the Golden Jubilee theme, and she's covered with diamonds. So I think that looks really nice.
But also the very beautiful earrings, these brilliant ones, the old ones.
Yes, that you were just showing. I think these are the Carl Johan earrings, right?
Yes,
yes. And the day before, she was wearing the Vasa earrings, which are the very, very old diamond earrings.
Yes, they are probably the oldest pieces of jewelry in the royal, belonging to the current royal family. And they used to belong to, I think it was Queen Frederica, who was married to the last king of the Holstein-Gottorp dynasty, who was dethroned and replaced by the Bernadottes. And then they were given to the future Queen Victoria of Sweden when she married the crown prince of the future Gustaf V. And they were given to her by her great aunt or something, who was the granddaughter and the last of the old royal dynasty.
Nice.
Yes. And I found I actually found a something in the biography of a father who would have been King Gustaf V, that when she married, she received a huge chest of her grandmother's and great grandmother's jewels, including, you know, lots of diamonds and pieces of jewelry. And my theory is that those earrings were part of that.
Yes, most likely, yeah.
And that's really kind of interesting that they do still have this, and the fact that Sylvia decided to incorporate this level of history into all these events and have, because King Carl Gustaf is the longest reigning Swedish monarch and the first to celebrate a Golden Jubilee, so it's a very momentous occasion to have this historical pieces represented. Is quite linked, and I'm pretty sure knowing Queen Sylvia, she would have thought about that when she was picking them.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
But the pity is that Queen Victoria never had her ears pierced, so we didn't really see them until I think the 1960s. When Queen Louise wore them, who didn't have her ears pierced for the longest time as well.
To be honest, earrings of that size, if you don't have your ears pierced, there are fixtures you can put onto them, but you wouldn't risk it.
No.
I mean, look at Sylvia's earlobes now. Like,
yeah. And a lot of the historical earrings do have those hooks. So even if Victoria, for instance, she wears a few of the earrings. You know, she both has the hook, and then she has them in her pierced earlobes, and they still hang really low.
Yeah, but the Danish Queen has done the same with her big alum earrings.
Yeah.
To have this extra hook around to the ear.
Who was it the other day that we found out some royal that never had their ears pierced?
It's like in the Dutch family.
No, I think it was Queen Ingrid actually.
Yeah.
Yes, Queen Ingrid, and she wore those massive ruby earrings.
Yeah, she never had her ears pierced.
No.
She never had her ears pierced. Yes.
Oh, that's that I've got to see.
I forget where we heard it from, but I remember I think it was Kaspar who shared that article with us.
It could be, but I don't remember right now.
I read it. I don't know why we started talking about it.
Yeah. So no, I think the Braganza I think this is one of the largest tiaras out there. This is the Luxembourg Empire tiara, and that's the Dutch Stuart tiara. And this one I think is the prettiest of them all because it has a very lovely kind of pleasing floral design. And
it looks much more organic and well, of course you can see it's quite dense in the look, but it looks more organic and with the leaves, and whereas you said the Stuart or the Luxembourg one, they're a little more stiff or
they look like a wall of diamonds, where this one has a very kind of pleasing design.
This one has a little curve.
So no, and I was a bit disappointed. I think what I envisioned with the Braganza, and I think her kind of best looks has been wearing the two massive diamond Rivieres from the Royal Collection. So this Riviere is a bit smaller, so it's not that kind of huge amount of diamonds, but if you compare, it did allow the Braganza to shine.
It did, but it could also be because there's a lot of embroideries on her top part of her gala dress, so that's why
someone called it figure skater.
But doesn't it weigh around 3 kilos or something?
Yes,
it does.
Yes, and I seem to recall that she said that she wear it only on these very special occasions, not only because it's heavy, but also it's so wobbly, very, very wobbly. And there was something about, I don't know if it was this tiara, but she was in an event once where she had so much headache, and was it Prince Bertil who signed to her, you can take the hairpins out.
That was the 9-prong one.
That was the 9-prong, yes, sorry.
Which is also very massive. I mean, the Swedes do have a nice selection of big tiaras. And if we move on to the next slide, we can kind of see Crown Princess Victoria, who was, I think, the most interesting thing for me is that I was expecting new tiaras from all the Swedish royal ladies, or kind of something grander. And what the three younger ones chose instead were, they wore their usual tiaras, but they wore heirloom jewels from the royal waltz, which were special or new to them in a way that made it kind of very different, while still kind of taking over and like outshining Queen Sylvia. It was really the best.
But when Victoria came and when she had the speech, the beautiful speech for her father, this tiara, it sparkles so much. It's really beautiful.
It is really stunning, and I mean, I wrote an article on it last month, I believe, and I liked it, but I felt like she wore it quite a lot. But then it gave me a really new appreciation, because in the past 22 years, Victoria has worn it over 50 times.
Oh, but it's also called the Crown Prince tiara, isn't it?
Yes, because Victoria left it to be worn by the Crown Princess.
Yes, even though the Queen has worn it, it's still like it's designated for the Crown Princess.
Yes, so I like, and I think this really suits her face much more than the laurel wreath tiara.
Yes,
I agree.
I'm very grateful that we didn't see that one.
The laurel wreath tiara should go back as a necklace.
I would have loved to see that worn as a necklace with this. It would have created a lovely kind of look. But this is, I like this. And then with this, she wore the Leutenberg sapphire brooch, as we were talking about earlier. And that's very rare, not just in Swedish, but in other royal families, for two ladies to wear the same jewel in the same day. And it could have been a very kind of random decision, because she wore the hairpins as well. So she must have planned it out a bit.
Yes.
Jacob, she's wearing your sapphire bracelet, isn't she?
She is wearing my sapphire
one.
Whoa!
And I was very happy to see it. But I think it was Saad and our friend Sarah that I told that she's worn it twice in a year. Well, in a bit more than a year.
In like less than, I think, 4 months.
Yes, and knowing her,
she'll never wear anything else again.
She's gonna wear the hell out of. She's gonna wear that thing all the time now, because I mean, sometimes she reminds me of Sonia. She has very pretty pieces, but she has a few pretty pieces that she rotates all the time. But I'm happy to see the bracelet, and I hope Aunt Margrethe has sold it to her brother, together with the tiara and the other aquamarine. There's a brooch, right? And a what you call it, a drop thing, pendant. Yes. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And it's to see Victoria wearing it is a positive sign that is what has happened. So.
Yes, I think so.
I think we were lucky this time not to see the Bernadotte button tiaras.
Oh yes.
Very.
I like the history of the buttons, but I have no idea what it's doing there, because the design they made for that, it doesn't fit anything.
No,
it could be done in a more beautiful way. So, but back to this.
I think my kind of two comments are that, one, we've seen her wear these earrings, like Jacob said, she wears something once, and I think she's worn these earrings, like those 50 events that I'm talking about. I think she's worn these earrings with the tiara 45 for those 45 of those events. Like, it's crazy how much like she repeats like the same jewelry combinations over and over again. And I mean, the Swedes have like a good 8 to 10 tiara events every year, because the Nobels and the representation dinners and that sort of thing. So for her to kind of be repeating the same things, she doesn't really take it full advantage of the massive jewelry vault. And at the same time, I feel that I love the look, but it could have used a necklace. It was really lucky.
Definitely, yeah.
But she's not good. She's not good at wearing necklaces. And I think one of the black holes of the Bernadotte collections is necklaces. They have a lot of diamond rivières, and they are fantastic rivières. But still, Victoria always end up wearing the most boring rivières.
Yeah.
And they have so many. They have a few necklaces that aren't diamonds. They have the pink topaz necklace, which is for the Queen, apparently. They have the processional necklace.
The emerald?
The sapphire and pearl one.
Yes.
Which would have gone very well with this outfit, actually.
It would have,
and the
yes.
amethyst necklace also.
They have. And well.
They have the emeralds.
Yeah. Where they did take parts off to make earrings. That's a new addition. That they changed such an old piece.
But no, they do have, like, I think a decent 6 or so non-diamond necklaces, which is more than other countries, but they really make use of them. So it's always, and they have that a big diamond stomacher necklace from Queen Josephina, which is not the most attractive, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, and the processional necklace, the last time it was worn, was it Madeline at Victoria's wedding?
Yes.
And that's 13 years ago now.
So it's been quite a time.
Yes. Come on, girls.
Come on.
It's nice to get it out.
I mean, there's the Nobels coming up. There's Christian's birthday, and with Victoria for sure is going to be there. So she has a couple of occasions to bring out a necklace.
Yeah, isn't she also the godmother of Prince Christian?
Yes, she is. So she's for sure going to be in Denmark next month. So if you're listening, Victoria, I think this is a good opportunity. I think if we move on to the next slide, we're going to see kind of some of the other royal guests who were the leading ones with that. We talked about Queen Margrethe and Queen Sonja, both wearing their biggest tiaras and very kind of typical repeats. But I like that they were a nice kind of compliment to Queen Sylvia and allowed her to shine.
Yeah.
Yes, and they must have talked. They must have had a group chat and said, "I'm going to be wearing a queen gun. You should do."
As they say, they don't count the carats; they count the centuries.
Of course. And very interesting enough, both of these tiaras have a Swedish link.
Yes. And that's why it would have been so nice if Mary had also worn the rubies. Then it would be like all Swedish inheritance, all of it.
It would have been lovely, but as we'll talk about later, Mary's been on a disappointing run lately.
Yeah.
But with Sonja, she wore the same gown last year at Queen Margrethe's Golden Jubilee banquet, where I think Jakob and I were standing outside Christiansborg, and as the bus pulled up, our friend Nettie, she was taking pictures with her camera, so we couldn't see inside the bus, but she saw yellow, and she was like, Sonja's wearing her big bird dress again. Like grown among our crowd, where we're like, oh no, not the big bird again. But then she came down.
And we weren't the only ones who were groaning. It was a big communal groan, like, oh no, not that old thing again.
There were at least 10 people who we did not know that groaned. So it was a very fun thing. And then Daisy wore this gown a few months ago for Harald and Sonja's visit. Yes. Same tiara, but I mean, from her usual gown, it's a bit kind of different. It's a very summery, springy vibe, and I like it. It's very nice. I was expecting the big kind of hot pink gown that she wore for her Jubilee Gala last year, and this is a very kind of nice change from that.
But she's so daring in colors and patterns, and it's nice. It suits her.
Yes, as long as we don't see that teal turquoise thing again. So this was two kind of standard looks from two queens, but lovely looks on both of them.
Very.
And then if we move on to the next slide, we're going to see really Queen Anne-Marie was the odd one out of not being a reigning queen, but she was there as the king's cousin, not necessarily as
Yes.
a royal guest.
And she took like her smaller parts of jewelry on, but historic pieces, of course. But
Oh,
it wasn't
definitely.
her big emerald or big ruby set, but it was more discreet.
So
compared to
Swedish
what she had.
pieces.
Yes, and it has a
Yeah,
Swedish link.
again Swedish, yes.
So we saw
And
the
I like
Egypt era,
for sure they're talking together because they like to honor each other. So if there is heirlooms from somewhere, from someone, they will wear it if it fits.
Oh, definitely.
Do we
And
know
I
what that
think-
ruby brooch is yet?
Not the brooch. I think I did send you a picture. She wore it, I believe, for Christian's christening back in 2005 or
Hmm.
2006 was. And
But Saad, you saw that this pendant she's wearing, she was also wearing at, was it her pre-gala, a wedding, or?
yes, pre-wedding gala, and then she wore it
Yeah.
again in the 60s, but it hasn't been seen for like decades.
I bet that's
Yeah.
Swedish too. I bet
Yes,
that's all
that-
Swedish.
Could be, yeah.
It could be something from Crown Princess Margrethe that they had languishing in the wall. But I mean, she did wear a couple of kind of interesting jewels that she hasn't really worn for a long time, which kind of got me thinking maybe she kind of has a vault in Copenhagen, or maybe there are kind of some jewels that they had left behind in Athens, because I think this and the sapphire brooch that she wore earlier, they hadn't been really seen since the 60s when she
No,
was
I
still.
haven't seen it for a long time either, so.
So it could
I
be
was-
that maybe they have a vault there that she just forgot about now that King Constantine died, and they kind of open stuff up and they're, oh, we have jewels somewhere, and she was like, might as
Oh,
well
by
wear
the
them.
way, yeah. Oh, there it was. But the necklace
So-
that Emery is wearing is part of, there's one more, and it used to be a long sautoir, but then it used to belong to her grandmother, Queen Alexandrine, and then as a gift from her father and Queen Ingrid, she got one part, and her sister Benedicta got the other part.
Yes,
But
she's
it's
been very creative incorporating that with the emerald
Yeah.
pearl over the years.
when these drops are hanging, it's disturbing my eyes. But she is creative in
No, I like it when it's attached with the full brooch.
the
Yes.
brooch. I agree, definitely, but not with four.
Yeah, no, I don't
it
like
has
that.
to be- It has to be unequal numbers. So
Yeah.
I think one of
But I wonder if she was paying tribute to her husband by wearing that brooch. If she wore it to the pre-wedding gala, that must have been. Was it the night before they were married, or 2 nights before, or
it was
something?
this was the one in Copenhagen, because they had like a series of events,
Yes, of
at least
course.
2 galas in Copenhagen. This was from her first ever tiara event, which was the second
okay.
in Greensburg.
Because I mean, today, the day we're recording, is her first wedding anniversary
Without
after
the king.
her husband
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
So
yes,
I think that gala was on the 9th of September when she first wore it.
okay.
And then there was one on the 10th, and then they went to Copenhagen, and on the 14th she had her first official portraits wearing the emeralds. On the 15th she wore the rubies for the first time. 17th they had the big gala with all the foreign royals, and she wore the emeralds going down those stairs. And then the 17th was the wedding. And the 18th was
They had to party back then.
yes.
They did it right.
And the
Mhm.
saddest thing out of all of this is I was looking, and Daisy wore the Alexandrian drop tiara for all of those events.
yes.
She
Which
had
is
no
now
one.
with,
It was like 6
Alexandra.
tiaras in a row. Yeah. So I mean, it's a nice tiara, but for a crown princess, it's not that impressive.
No.
But the tiara she's wearing here, the Caché Khedive of Egypt tiara, is, I like it a lot with its scroll motifs.
Yeah.
The only thing that saddens me is that it went in that direction out of Denmark to the Greek family, but it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I
you'd
mean-
think it was, it not unofficial or officially designated the Danish wedding tiara. It would have stayed in Denmark.
Yes,
Strange. Yeah.
but we don't know what will happen when she's not here anymore. But my guess is, of course, it will stay in that family. But it could be that she said that it's your for life, and then it has to go back to the
Maybe.
Danish Family Foundation. We never know.
And that would be interesting. The same thing with Benedicte's pearl and star tiara, because the Danes need all the tiaras they can get.
Yes.
No, this was I think from Anne Marie, this is the same gown that she wore in Copenhagen, but she kind of changed it up that it looked very different. And it was nice to see her kind of, it's been a tough couple of months for her, losing her husband and all of that. And she first at the coronation and then now at this, it's nice to see that she's healthy and doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so obvious that she was invited as a cousin because the king doesn't have many cousins, and they were those he has were all seem to have been invited, if I remember it correctly, at least on his father's side. So it's nice.
I mean, it would have been nice to the Saxe-Coburg Gothas there.
Yes, I was surprised that they were not present. But
no, but I mean, what's his name? Andreas, Prince Andreas. I know that he has, I think it's Parkinson's.
okay.
And so maybe he's the same age as the king or a few years older. So maybe he was unwell. We don't know.
No.
I mean, Anne Marie, as I was just saying, Anne Marie is also born the same year as Carl Gustaf, so they're basically the same age.
Yeah.
That may be another reason why she was invited, kind of especially out of all the other royals.
But I mean, his cousin Count Michael, who was the son of his uncle Sigvard, was also there, and he brought his daughter and his son-in-law. So
funny choice, actually. So
yeah,
but
so
of course,
I don't think that
it also gives us a sign of
first cousins.
It gives us a sign about who he's actually close to, I guess.
Definitely. And I think if we move on to the next slide, we're gonna see the Swedish royal ladies were out. Actually, no, first we're gonna talk about Mary. And the fact that I think me and Kaspar and Jakob, we were all really hoping that, okay, yes, she's gonna bring the rubies out again, because she wore the rubies for Princess Victoria's wedding. She's worn them in Sweden before. There's a link with Sweden. It'd be the natural choice, but Mary instead. I mean, at least we should be grateful she did not wear her necklace tiara again, and she wore the wedding tiara. So it was a bit of a change, but it was disappointing in that sense.
Nice, but small.
But
then we saw her aquamarine girandole earring. But the funny part is there's also this very huge pearl choker necklace with aquamarine and sapphires. We haven't seen her wearing that since many years. But she had it as a set with these earrings.
Yeah, I think it's been this kind of whole combination of jewels is one that Mary hasn't really worn for a long time. And I liked her gown, but the jewels, it kind of felt like a hark back to like an older age when she was a newlywed. And now that she's much mature in her role and we kind of see her in those grander pieces, it just feels a bit let down in that sense.
And again, no necklace.
No necklace. And this one, like Victoria, it could have used a necklace.
Yes, but I don't know much about, fashions and jewelry fashions and whatever, but is necklaces not a thing anymore among the younger generations?
It could be that they just don't want to overshine. Because, I mean,
for instance, Letizia never wears a necklace, for instance.
She's a petite lady, and her tiaras are very overwhelming.
Yeah,
it could be that's why.
Are necklaces not in fashion, or?
I mean, Matilda doesn't wear necklaces, but she doesn't really have any. And Maxima is just Mattie Mart never wears necklaces. So except Maxima, Catherine never wears necklaces either. Let's be honest. Until she does, like at the coronation when she hid it. So.
Well, we hope they will come back.
Let's hope so. So I think Mary was, she looked nice. I like the gown. I like to see it repeated with kind of different jewels and different kind of combinations later on. But it was pretty nice.
It was very nice.
if we go on to the next slide, we're going to see the Swedish royal ladies. So we saw Håkon. He didn't come with Medimar. He was alone because she pulled out at the last kind of moment, because she was supposed to be attending all of this, but as we've discussed, she would have been in the same thing that she usually wears. She would have been wearing a prairie dress to the concert, normal looking coat with like a weird frilly headband thing for the service, and then a repeat gown with her daisy bandeau tucked far back in her head, and that was going to be like her typical look. So we didn't necessarily miss
not many surprises there normally.
Yes. So we did miss her presence, but she wasn't going to give us many surprises. So it was all right. And then if we go on to the next slide, we're going to see the two Swedish royal ladies, Sophia and Madeleine. And they both, like with Victoria, they brought surprises, not in the way that we wanted, which was with new to them tiaras or something bigger, but Madeleine wore the pink topaz earrings, and Sophia debuted a new kind of citrine version of her tiara and wore these heirloom diamond earrings and brooch. I think the earrings are the first time where the brooch has been worn before.
So nice to get these old heirlooms out. That we like.
Yeah.
It's nice to see them back, because the topazes haven't been worn in a long time. And my wish is really to see Victoria wear them for the Nobels or something sometime soon. But
I love them, yes. So
but it's quite funny because we've seen a few times that Madeleine wears an heirloom, and then that Victoria has never worn, and then after Madeleine wears them, Victoria starts to wear them.
But she's a fashion lady, Madeleine, so I think she's teaching her sister.
Or she tests the waters and she wears these things, and then Victoria's like, okay, I'm going to check the public opinion. If there's no reaction, then I'll wear it too.
Okay, that could be. But if you talk about Sophia's tiara, I like that it's so versatile. It has a lot of semi-precious stones besides the diamond and emeralds. But I like citrine, but I have to say I'm not happy about this combi.
No,
I think there's something. It's the color of the citrine. They are like, or
they're very dark for citrines.
Yeah, it could also be topaz.
I thought it was topaz.
It could be. It has not been confirmed, but I think they're too dark.
They are, especially with the light gown. It didn't really make a good combination. And I mean, Jakob made his views very clear on this tiara when we talked about it in our episode on the Nobels. But we like it, but no, that's
I don't like it. but I don't like it. It bores me to death. But it can look better and worse. And to me, this was worse. I'm also a fan of citrines, but these stones are they're too big? I don't know.
Yeah, they're too big.
Yes, because
it looks like a glowing star upon a lot of small Christmas trees.
So no, it was interesting. I loved both their gowns, but Madeleine's tiara is lovely. But I mean, Sophia's tiara, not so much. I think one of the things that we really missed at this Jubilee celebration was the presence of the king's four older sisters, the Haga princesses. And we instead only got Princess Christina, who's been by his side. She was his kind of first lady for the first years of his reign. And she was wearing the Connell tiara, which came from their grandmother, and it's been one of the pieces that she wore at her wedding. And also something that she's been wearing a lot recently, ever since she's kind of been researching into Crown Princess Margrethe's life.
It's one of my favorite tiaras.
It's beautiful. And it looks just as good as a necklace.
Yes, it does.
And I think with Christina, we see that one of the kind of most interesting pieces of insignia that she's wearing is the king's medal. which she was given, I believe it was last year or maybe the year before that, for
Yeah.
kind of extraordinary service. And that's just like really an example of how like loyally she's served her brother for the past 50 years.
And it was
I
also
think
like Alice Trolle-Wachtmeister who had one.
Yes.
No, she didn't have. She didn't have
Not
that
this
one.
No,
No,
it
she
was
had
another one.
another
Okay. Yeah.
This is the King's Medal, the brilliant. Do you say brilliant in English?
Yes.
Like round?
The brilliant encrusted
Incredible.
Yeah.
version, diamond encrusted version of the King's Medal, and Christina is only the second person ever to receive it. And her and her brother's uncle, Prince Bertil, was the first one who received it. So it's the
It's
king
quite an honor.
Yes, the king has obviously chosen to use it as a way of honoring members of his family who has made a very important contribution to the monarchy.
Mm.
I could see Prince Carl Philip getting it in a couple of years.
Yeah, and also when he got the medal, it was still not it was still not allowed, except for the Order of the Seraphim. It was still not allowed to give orders to Swedish citizens. That has fortunately changed, and we might see some orders soon. I thought that we would get them for the Jubilee, but none yet.
That's
Oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. Someone noticed that the head or the master of the Royal Orders, or whatever his title is in English, he was wearing one of the introduced orders. So yes, the Order of the Vasa, I think.
How interesting.
Yes, I have a picture of it somewhere that I can show you later.
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, so
Was it last year or this year that they started to change the rules to?
From 1st January this year, the Royal Orders were
Back in the game.
Back in the game, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
But
then
as a big surprise to all of us, in the background of Christina, you see Countess Jill Bernadotte.
yes, and I think you can see more of her in the next slide. And she's wearing a new tiara.
Yes.
And we have been trying so far, not found any clue on it, but we will not give up. It's a new treasure hunt.
Yes.
But it looks like emerald, or it could be jade, but I think it's emerald. Or
No, it looks emerald to me.
Sorry?
It looks like an emerald.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And then it's very different from her usual tiara, which she wears her mother-in-law, Countess Estelle Bernadette's diamond tiara, and has worn for quite a few decades at this point. She was wearing Countess Estelle's diamond necklace, this time with an emerald pendant. And I think it's nice to see her change up her jewels, but we're just very curious if it's an heirloom, if it's a loaned piece, if it's been kind of in the walls for a couple of decades and no one had any idea about it.
And I just an additional fact about her mother-in-law's tiara is that the eminent Klaus Mattsson that I mentioned the last time I was on the podcast wrote on Facebook a few years ago that he believed that the tiara could have originated with Countess Estelle's mother, American mother, Mrs. Manville. Which would mean that Jill is it's been in the family for 3 generations.
Wow. And it's American, which is very interesting. Because it's such a unique design.
Yeah, but a question to you who know these things better than I am. I saw a shot of the countess from the back, and you could see the back of the tiara. And it seemed in that picture, it seemed like everything was flat, you know?
Mm.
And I mean, I don't know anything about this, but doesn't that indicate that it's cheap? Or
It could be indicating it, but we have to see a close up.
yeah.
Because some older stones are closed from behind, but most of them, of course, would be open, like the Queen Margrethe's pearl, which is 200 years old. It is open from the back, even though it's that old, because to let the light in. So it could indicate that the stones could be foliated.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's like if you had a bad white diamond that was very yellow in color, you would put foil on the back of it, like gold foil, and then it would make the yellow stone look yellower.
But I did see in the TV where I tried watch it online and put it on pause when I could see Countess Jill from the back, and I could see there was a green stone, so that wasn't foliated. But I don't know with the other stones, because the quality it's difficult to see all these details.
Send me a picture, I'm sure I'll work it out.
Yep.
But does it to you? Does it seem like, I don't know how you can tell, but does it seem like it's a newly made piece, or does it look old? Or
to me, it looks older.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
But
They're not.
Is. And it looks like that the green stones are set in gold, and the rest is like silver or platinum.
Yeah.
But it's purely guessing from my side.
Yeah, mine too. Unless I saw a better picture, I couldn't tell you.
I'm a maniac with tiaras, you know, but I've really tried to dig into this one. It's a nice puzzle.
Yeah,
I'm sure we will solve it.
We will indeed.
Definitely. And then if we move on, we can really see rounding up all the Scandinavian kind of heads of state in the next slide. Standing beside Queen Margrethe. And 50 years ago, she attended her first gala event as queen there for her grandfather's 90th birthday. And 50 years later, we see she's the constant, and how kind of things have moved on. But she's still there, still wearing the same jewels, the same orders.
Yeah, that's fun. And what about the king? He's also wearing this chain with a medallion on, like Christina, or is it another one?
No, I think it's, I mean, it looks the same, but I think it's another one. I think that because I've seen photos of him wearing this, and I think I've seen photos of Prince Bertil wearing, oh, maybe not, but I think that one of the anniversary medals of Gustaf V had a chain. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's the same.
No, okay.
Where on the next day, so the foreign royals all left Stockholm, and the king and queen, for them, the celebration, it's been a year-long series of celebrations, and it continued with first a carriage ride through Stockholm, and then they boarded the royal barge for a mini procession back to the royal palace, and seemed like a really nice occasion where people, I think this was the public element, because the last few events have been more or less private inside the royal palaces. There's been very little public. So this third day was really for the Swedish people to celebrate with the king.
And that has actually been my issue with this jubilee, is that, and that's why me, and one of the main reasons why Kaspar and I decided not to go, is that we knew that so much of the celebrations would be held inside the palace or out in Drottningholm, or you wouldn't be able to see much of the things that we as royal watchers want to see, like we did in Copenhagen, for instance. So I'm a bit disappointed in that, but it's business as usual for the Swedes.
Yeah, but we could also see like there is an extra security level taken into Sweden these days.
The security was crazy.
Yeah, but even just at Drottningholm Thursday evening, the only one who was there is the press, and they were standing with such a long distance to the guests.
I read somewhere that this was one of the biggest security operations ever in Sweden.
Especially when you consider the amount of people that attended Victoria's wedding and compared to that.
Yes.
No, that's crazy. And then I think move on. In the evening, there was a concert held by the city of Stockholm for the king, and this was like really the end of the Jubilee. And we see right here that the future of the monarchy is represented. There's the king, there's a crown princess, and then her daughter, Princess Stella, who are all gonna succeed to the throne one day.
Can I add something here? Just before the concert, after the carriage ride, they were actually sailing on the royal, the Swedish royal family. They don't have a big yacht like the Danish and the Norwegian, but they have the old wooden gold boat called is it called the Vasa, Jakob?
No, it translates as the Order of the Vasa. Vasa Order.
It's like a long chaloupe with a little house on. So they were sailing in the Swedish Skärgård with it a little while, and then they went to the concert.
Yes, and I think that was the kind of special part where even more people could see them than just
it was it's been renovated. I think it's 150 years old or more, and it was newly renovated. So it was used by Victoria and Daniel for their wedding.
Yes.
And then it wasn't used until during the king's visit to Stockholm during his Jubilee tour of all the Swedish counties. And that it was used, and they were sailing up to City Hall, I think, which is by the water. So it's been restored. It's taken many years, and it's cost a fortune, but it's a very pretty boat.
And it has no motors, only a lot of soldiers standing and rowing it.
You know, it was a lovely end to a really kind of long series of celebrations, and I think a very fitting way to honor the king's service.
Yeah.
And that reminds us, I think if we move on to the next slide, we can see Queen Margrethe, who is the king's cousin, and she's been, she celebrated her Golden Jubilee last year, but she has a very kind of interesting role in that she has served as the executive producer, the set designer, and the costume designer for Netflix's new film, Ehrengard.
And Ehrengard is a fictive story written by Baroness Karen Blixen, who is this famous author. She died back around in the 60s, but she wrote this Babette's guest offer, and she also wrote Out of Africa, among other big stories. But they took this story and they made it into a movie with some famous Danish actors. And then they and the Queen made I think it was 81 different decoupages, where they took them into the computer and added like more stuff to them, stones, mountains, birds. So she was like building up the fairy tale universe.
Yes, and I think if we move on, we'll see in the next slide Queen Margrethe showing Crown Princess Mary many of the decoupages at the movie premiere a few days ago, which the film came out on the 14th while they were in Sweden. So the premiere was, I believe, on the 6th. And the Danish, so Mary joined Queen Margrethe for the premiere, and we saw we see examples here, but in the next slide, we can really see the most famous example of how she created this observatory in Rosenbad, which was one of the fictional castles, and how they really brought that to life. So there's the film on Netflix, but there's also a behind the scenes segment, which is absolutely fascinating for anyone interested in set design and costume design, and to see kind of how this creative vision came to life. It's such a visual feast for the eyes, this entire film.
It is.
It's spectacular to watch.
And actually, her grandson, Count Felix, was also invited, but he got sick. So,
Yes.
and no of her other grandkids were there.
No, I find it really interesting, like we were discussing about how Queen Margrethe's creative hobbies are really encouraged and nurtured by the Danish people, and how she's really able to have this huge kind of role, not just as sovereign, but she designs costumes for the ballet. She's working for Netflix. It's very interesting how really she has been able to manage both of those roles side by side without a lot of outcry or conflict.
Yes, it is. She's an artist by heart and by nature, but she also has a weekly day off on Thursdays, where it's dedicated to her when she was able to do her ballet and then to creativity. Of course, there has been some cases where people and artists said, "Oh, why are you doing this? You're not the artist, you're the queen." But somehow they managed to find a level where people think it's okay when she's like doing these stuff with churches and ballet and some of these decoupage movies.
No, I think it's definitely very admirable, and I think on to the next slide, we'll be able to kind of it's been such a kind of eventful, after a kind of slow summer, to have all these royal events coming back, and we have a lot to look forward to in the next few weeks. So it's kind of lovely to get back into things with this lovely Jubilee and a nice Netflix film and see them back on stage.
It was really a pleasure. It was so nice to see this event in Sweden.
Definitely. So thank you so much, both of you, Kaspar and Jakob, for being on the podcast.
You're welcome.
And we'll be sure to include all of your details on social media and everywhere when we edit this later on. So it's just a pleasure.